Kendra Hatcher was born in a small town outside of Chicago, Illinois. From a young age, she exhibited a nurturing and caring nature. Her parents instilled in her the importance of helping others and making a difference. During college, Kendra developed a passion for dentistry and decided to focus on pediatrics. Her ability to connect with young people made her a natural choice as a pediatric dentist. She was drawn to working with children and helping them improve their oral health. In 2015, at just 35 years old, Kendra landed her dream job at a dental practice in Dallas, Texas, in a low-income community. This dental office was dedicated to community outreach, ensuring the residents of the area received the best care. With a passion for helping, Kendra quickly established a rapport with her patients. Kendra was an eligible bachelorette, so it came as no surprise that she quickly captured the heart of Dr. Ricardo "Ricky" Paniagua, a dermatology resident. Ricky, originally from California, fell hard for Kendra, and she reciprocated his feelings. After only 4 months of dating, their connection was so strong that they began discussing moving in together and planning a wedding. Those who loved Kendra were thrilled for her. They hadn't seen her this excited in a long time. Life seemed to be on an upward trend for Kendra ever since she moved to Dallas at the start of the year. In September, Kendra and Ricky had planned a romantic beach getaway to Cancun. However, this would never come to pass. Little did Kendra know that her happiness would be short-lived. On September 2, 2015, Kendra was driving home from her job as a receptionist at a local hospital. While on her way, she was engaged in a text message conversation with Ricky, who was waiting at her apartment. They were excitedly discussing their upcoming trip to Cancun, scheduled for the following day. Ricky told Kendra that he was going out to grab a bite to eat and asked her to let him know when she arrived home. Around the same time, Hashem, a young man living in the same apartment complex as Kendra, was walking to his car in the parking garage with his friend. As they approached the parking area, he heard a commotion that echoed through the floor. Hashem and his friend paused for a moment, startled by the intense sound of screaming and a series of popping noises that sounded like gunshots. Suddenly, a black Jeep Cherokee screeched past Hashem, shocking him and his friend. Scared, Hashem and his friend got into their car and followed the Jeep out of the parking garage. As they exited the garage, Hashem noticed a body lying on the ground next to a white Toyota Camry. When Hashem made it to the street, he pulled over and called 911, telling them he saw a woman lying on the ground with blood coming from her neck. Police officers and paramedics arrived at the scene to find the woman already dead. After carefully surveying the area, officers ran the victim's vehicle number and discovered it belonged to Dr. Kendra Hatcher. Officers retrieved Kendra's driver's license photo from the database to confirm the victim's identity. The resemblance was undeniable, and the officers concluded that Kendra was the victim. The parking lot was then designated as the crime scene. Ricky, who had been incessantly texting and calling Kendra but receiving no response, rapidly grew concerned. One of the homicide detectives approached him. Ricky identified himself as Kendra's boyfriend. The detective then informed Ricky that Kendra had tragically passed away. Initially, Ricky's reaction seemed genuine to the detective. However, because he was Kendra's boyfriend and was present at the scene of the crime, the detective had no choice but to investigate further to determine his involvement. Ricky was taken into custody and brought to the nearby police station for questioning. Meanwhile, a team of crime scene investigators arrived at the parking garage to begin their examination of the body and gather evidence. Upon their arrival, they quickly noticed that Kendra had been shot through the upper part of the back of her head, with the bullet exiting through her chin. Additionally, the presence of gunshot residue on Kendra's hands suggested the possibility that she had her hands positioned behind her head at the time of the incident. Based on the evidence found at the crime scene, the detectives believed that whoever shot Kendra was standing over her and executed her. Investigators also found a shell casing from a .40 caliber weapon at the crime scene. They stumbled upon a magazine from a handgun, leading them to believe that the shooter, in a moment of haste, may have accidentally hit the release on the gun, causing the magazine to pop out. Upon examination, it was found that the magazine did not contain any DNA or prints that could help identify a suspect. The crime scene provided several crucial clues, but one item stood out. Kendra's purse was missing. This absence led detectives to believe that the motivation behind her murder may have been a robbery gone wrong. With security cameras in various areas of the parking garage, the detectives sought access to the footage from the apartment complex management. As the detectives waited for the CCTV footage to be reviewed, they interviewed Ricky at the police station. Throughout the interview, Ricky appeared shocked and disoriented. Despite the lack of evidence suggesting Ricky's involvement in Kendra's shooting, the detectives couldn't rule him out as a suspect. However, at the end of the interview, detectives released Ricky as they did not have sufficient evidence to charge him. When the security camera footage from the garage came in, the detectives were confronted with a series of chilling events. The video showed that at 7:15 p.m. on September 2nd, a black Jeep Cherokee followed a resident through the parking garage and parked in a spot. About 20 minutes later, at 7:42 p.m., a white Toyota Camry pulled into the garage as Kendra parked in her designated spot. The suspect left the Jeep and walked out of frame, heading in the direction of Kendra's car. The Jeep then abruptly reversed, and the suspect walked back to the vehicle, entering the passenger side. The Jeep sped out of the parking garage. Because the footage was grainy, the detectives could not make out any features of the shooter or the license plate number on the Jeep. However, one crucial piece of information came to light during the review of the security camera footage. The Jeep's driver, a woman, was seen on one of the cameras as she exited the parking garage. One of the detectives took a still image of the woman's face and released a widely publicized picture. This photograph was paired with an image of the black Jeep Cherokee. 2 days after Kendra's death, Jose Ortez contacted the police and said he wanted to speak with the detectives working on the case. Jose agreed to meet with them at the police station. During their meeting, Jose informed the detectives that the Jeep seen on the news belonged to him. He recognized the unique characteristics of the vehicle, such as the customized rims and bumper trim, which made him confident that it was indeed his car. However, Jose denied any involvement in the crime. He expressed a strong desire to clear his name and stated that he had loaned his Jeep to his friend, Brenda Delgado, on September 2nd. Jose claimed that there was no way Brenda was the driver of the vehicle because at the time of Kendra's murder, he and Brenda had been eating dinner at Chili's. Jose revealed that Brenda had threatened him after he confronted her about the fact that his Jeep, which he had let her use, had been on the news and involved in a crime. Brenda had told him to leave the police out of the issue, or else there might be a need for authorities to question his immigration status. Furthermore, Brenda had offered to pay for the Jeep to be painted, so it didn't match the car the police were looking for. This revelation piqued the detectives' interest, as they became increasingly convinced that Brenda may have valuable information about Kendra's murder. That same day, September 4th, the detectives called Brenda Delgado and asked her to come to the police department for an interview. Through this search, they discovered that Brenda had immigrated from Mexico to Dallas as a little girl. Those who knew Brenda described her as quiet and reserved, yet they always noticed an upbeat energy about her. At the time of the murder, Brenda was 33 years old and was diligently working towards obtaining her certification as a dental hygienist. Her professors at the dental hygienist school spoke highly of her, praising her ambition and drive. They believed she had great potential and a bright future in the field. When asked if she knew the victim, Brenda denied having any knowledge of who Kendra was. Furthermore, she claimed to have spent the evening of September 2nd with her boyfriend, Jose, at Chile's restaurant to support her alibi. Brenda presented the detectives with a receipt from Chile's as proof of her whereabouts that night. However, the detectives found certain aspects of Brenda's story suspicious. The fact that Brenda had the receipt from the dinner 2 nights earlier raised a red flag. They believed it was unusual for someone to have such an old receipt readily available. Brenda inquired as to why her name had surfaced as a potential suspect. The detectives replied that Jose Ortez had come forward, and stated that Brenda had borrowed his Jeep. However, according to Brenda, her friend Crystal Cortez had borrowed the Jeep, not her. She provided the detectives with Crystal's phone number and suggested they call her in for an interview. During the investigation, Crystal Cortez was interviewed in the interrogation room, while Brenda Delgado was in another. Crystal admitted to driving the black Jeep Cherokee seen on the CCTV footage on the day and time of Kendra's murder. She stated that she and her son wanted to go to the park, and on their way there, a man suddenly jumped into the back seat of the Jeep. Crystal recalled how the man pulled a gun out and pointed it directly at her head. Terrified for herself and her child, she begged the man not to harm them. However, her pleas were brushed aside. The man ordered Crystal to drive, threatening her if she did not comply. With the gun still held to her head, Crystal reluctantly followed the man's instructions. Complying with his demands, they made their way to the apartment parking garage, where Crystal tailgated a resident's car and entered a little after 7 p.m. She then pulled into a spot and waited. Just then, a white car drove by, and the man emerged. Crystal heard gunshots and feared that the man had shot someone. The man returned and told her to leave. Crystal complied, driving the man to an area in downtown Dallas before dropping him off and leaving with her son. In the video, Crystal was seen driving the Jeep into the parking garage, seemingly on the morning of the murder. However, it was evident that her son was not accompanying her, contradicting her story. The detectives were convinced that Crystal's account was false and pressed her for further details. As the conversation continued, the detectives questioned Crystal's claim that she was forced to drive to the apartment complex at gunpoint. They asked why she didn't attempt to escape or seek help during the encounter. The CCTV footage provided compelling evidence that Crystal had been waiting for the suspect to return to the Jeep before leaving. This evidence raised suspicions about the true nature of the incident. Faced with the mounting evidence and the detectives' persistent questioning, Crystal eventually confessed to the planned attack on Kendra. However, she insisted that she didn't know the man with her possessed a gun. She claimed that they had only intended to rob Kendra, not harm her. According to Crystal, Kendra did not willingly hand her bag over, which led to an altercation, and ultimately the man shooting her. Crystal said that after the shooting, the man returned to the Jeep and told her not to tell anyone about the incident, or he would kill her. Crystal claimed that her friend Brenda Delgado had come up with the idea. The detectives pressed Crystal for more information, seeking to understand the connection between Brenda and Kendra. She divulged that she believed Kendra and Brenda were interested in the same man. This revelation raised interesting questions about the nature of their relationship and whether it could have played a role in the murder. During the investigation, the detectives discovered that Ricky had been in a relationship with Brenda Delgado for 2.5 years. The couple ended their relationship in June 2014. They decided to give it another shot by December of the same year. However, this attempt proved short-lived, as they broke up for good in February 2015. Just weeks after breaking up with Brenda, Ricky met Kendra and quickly developed feelings for her. He moved quickly, updating his profile picture on Facebook to include himself and Kendra. This sudden change set off alarms for Brenda, who felt threatened by the new relationship. Crystal alleged that Brenda had approached her with an offer to commit a robbery. According to Crystal, Brenda claimed she wanted to steal Kendra's purse and promised to pay her $500 in return for her involvement. However, Crystal insisted that the intention was never to murder Kendra, but rather to rob her. The detectives, suspicious of Crystal's claims, decided to confront Brenda in a separate interrogation room. They informed Brenda that they had discovered she had been in a romantic relationship with Kendra's boyfriend, which Brenda denied having any knowledge about. Despite their suspicions, Brenda continued to insist that she had no involvement in Kendra's murder. With the woman's consent, the detectives thoroughly searched Brenda's and Crystal's cell phones. They discovered that the two had met for lunch on the day Kendra was killed. Additionally, they saw that Brenda had given Crystal the promised $500 in cash. Further investigation revealed a photograph on Crystal's phone, taken after the payment was made. This photo showed Crystal holding the money in the shape of a heart. What disturbed the detectives was that Crystal did not show any signs of being upset or scared. Instead, she appeared to revel in the situation. The detectives returned to Crystal's interrogation room, where they questioned her about the selfie they had found on her phone. They asked why she appeared to be so happy and carefree, if she was so disturbed by Kendra's death, as she had claimed earlier. The detectives pressed further, questioning Crystal on the identity of the man who shot Kendra. Crystal hesitantly revealed that she believed the shooter's name was Lamar. She claimed to have met Lamar at a bar in downtown Dallas 1 month earlier. According to Crystal, Lamar drove a blue Chrysler Sebring. However, the detectives remained unsure about Crystal's truthfulness regarding the shooter's identity. They believed Crystal may have given a false name to protect the real culprit. Therefore, they decided to investigate Crystal's claim further by contacting Lamar and obtaining his phone number. Crystal gave the detectives Lamar's phone number, which they promptly handed to the investigation team. After Crystal's interrogation, she was arrested as she admitted to receiving payment from Brenda to be a getaway driver. However, the detectives did not have enough evidence to place Brenda under arrest for murder because Brenda had unpaid traffic tickets. The detectives proceeded to arrest Brenda for that and took her into custody while they determined the next steps in their investigation. The detectives, eager to find the perpetrator, began searching for an individual named Lamar in their criminal records database. However, to their disappointment, they found no information suggesting any connection between Lamar and the crime. Determined to uncover the shooter's true name, the detective team sought assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. With their assistance, the detectives tracked down the phone number Crystal had given them, claiming it belonged to the shooter. Upon conducting surveillance on the home connected to the phone number, the officers observed a blue Chrysler Sebring parked in the driveway. This description matched the vehicle Crystal had claimed the shooter owned. On September 30th, nearly 1 month after Kendra's murder, a man was observed exiting the house. He got into the Chrysler Sebring and pulled out from the driveway. The officers followed the car to a nearby parking lot, where the FBI made direct contact with the driver. Agents from the FBI identified the driver of the blue Sebring as 31-year-old Christopher Love. Christopher's vehicle was transferred to the auto impound lot for processing. During the search of Christopher's car, the crime scene investigators discovered a .40 caliber firearm, the same caliber used to shoot and kill Kendra. This discovery prompted the detectives to rush to the firearm lab to conduct a test fire. Within 1 hour, the results of the test confirmed that the shell casing found at the crime scene was indeed a match for Christopher's gun. The implications of this discovery were significant, as it directly linked Christopher to the shooting. With evidence mounting against him, Christopher was transported to the police station, where the detectives were waiting to interview him. Upon arrival, Christopher was confronted with a picture of the gun that was found in his car. To the surprise of the detectives, Christopher admitted to owning the gun, but denied being the person responsible for shooting Kendra. Christopher initially claimed that Crystal was the one who fatally shot Kendra. However, the detectives discovered that Crystal had been driving the Jeep at the time of Kendra's death, based on the CCTV footage. Further investigation revealed that Brenda, another suspect, had offered Christopher compensation in the form of drugs if he would assist in the crime. Christopher claimed that Brenda had told him that Kendra had stolen drugs from her house and also had a connection to a drug cartel. However, when confronted by the detectives, they revealed that Kendra had no drug connections and was a beloved children's dentist. Based on the new information, Christopher was charged with capital murder and placed in the Dallas County Jail. Brenda, on the other hand, was held in custody initially. However, she eventually paid the fine for her parking ticket on September 5th and was released from custody. When Brenda was released, she wasted no time in fleeing the country. She boarded a bus and headed to the Mexican border, hoping to evade capture. However, the authorities were vigilant in their search for Brenda and swiftly took action. The detectives contacted the media, issuing a public alert that Brenda was wanted for capital murder. They urged Brenda to turn herself in. Unfortunately, Brenda had no intention of heeding these calls. Instead, she crossed the border into Mexico, where she remained hidden for months. After deliberations, the jury found Brenda guilty of capital murder. Brenda received a life sentence without parole. On October 31, 2018, Christopher Love was also found guilty of capital murder and was sentenced to death.